NBA All-Star Weekend is over, and it got me thinking about the MLB All-Star Game. How can it be improved? How can MLB All-Star Weekend look like other weekends? Is MLB the best All-Star game? Also talking about great Cardinal performances in All-Star games and much more on today's episode of Locked On Cardinals, so stay tuned.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Cardinals podcast, Monday, February the 21st. I am Lucas Smith, host of the show. Thanks for tuning in today and each and every day that you tune in and for making Locked On Cardinals podcast your first listen of the day. This is currently being recorded during a labor negotiation between the MLB and MLBPA. So maybe you'll get a live reaction to a deal or a live reaction to the deal being over. I was trying to delay it a little bit because, I didn't think that the meetings were going to go 3 hours. But nevertheless, here we are. Meetings have gone over 3 hours. So we'll go ahead and get the recording in. And if we have some live news to break, we will go ahead and break it. But the topic of today's show is All-Star games because the NBA just finished up its All-Star weekend. And while a lot of it is pageantry and not really for me, to be honest with you, there is a great deal of, celebration that was had that was very good. This, all 75 team was fantastic. The content with Michael Jordan and LeBron James, that was wonderful. But it got me thinking about the MLB All-Star game and how it could be improved and how it can be what's already great about it. So we're going to start kind of general, and then we'll get into some Cardinal-centric topics, talk about Cardinal hitting performances, talk about Cardinal pitching performances as well, because there have been a handful of Cardinal All-Stars in the Cardinals' time and a couple of great performances as well. But for me, when I think of the MLB All-Star game, I think of it as the best All-Star game in the four major North American sports, that being Major League Baseball, National Basketball Association, National Football League, and the National Hockey League. And I'll admit, I did not watch the NBA All-Star game yesterday. I watched a little bit, like I said, of the pageantry and things of that nature. I did watch the Celebrity All-Star game, a little bit of the Rising Stars game. Didn't really interest me that much, really at all. Didn't see a point in it. The Pro Bowl, really for me in the NFL, is not even enjoyable whatsoever. But that's, again, me, not a huge football guy. And the NHL, I'll admit, I don't think I've watched a single second of the NHL All-Star game ever. But the skills competition of the NHL is pretty impressive. And I do enjoy watching the NBA skills competition and dunk contest and three-point shootout. Those are interesting to me. But again, to me, when you just look at the product itself, the game itself, not the pageantry, not the weekend, not everything that goes into it, the game itself, to me, MLB has the best All-Star game. Even before the win or loss mattered as to who got home field advantage in the World Series, because that did play a factor for a while. Before and after that, I still think it's the best product on the field because it's really hard for me. And the reason I think it's so great is because it's hard to play a baseball game haphazardly. It's hard to play a baseball game at 50%. Even something like the All-Star game. Yeah, you can dog in a double that could have been a triple in a quote-unquote real game. Yeah, you could, maybe not have as much bite on your curveball or things of that nature. But really, you still have to be locked in and ready to go, especially from a muscle memory type sport. And I talk about this very, very often, that baseball, to me, is the most muscle memory needed sport there is, with how fine point you have to be to hit a baseball to get a pitch moving the right way. So even when you're in the All-Star game, you have to treat that as a rep. NFL, maybe you run a couple of fun routes, maybe have a little fun at the offensive line, things of that nature. NHL, I'm not a hockey expert, so I'm not sure. NBA, we see little to no defense being played, and it's a lot more of a how fancy can a dunk be. But for me, the All-Star game for Major League Baseball is the best because it is still true to the game itself. Yeah, you've got a lot of fun with it as well. You've got mic'd up players that you got fun cleats, fun bats. You had the fun moment a couple years ago when Nelson Cruz took a picture with Joe West, Yadier Molina being the author or the photographer of that moment. So you still have fun moments and good moments in baseball all-star games, but the game itself is still enjoyable to watch from just an entertainment standpoint. More entertaining for me personally, and I think than a lot of people as well, than the other all-star games. Now, like I said, I admit that maybe the pageantry or the extra stuff that the NFL, NBA, NHL do is remarkable. Because yes, when you look at the All Star, it's not always weekend. It's usually just a two day affair of the All Star game. Um, you've got the home run derby, which when done correctly, when you have the right people in, is just a thing of beauty to watch. You've got the Josh Hamilton record setting a number of years ago. Todd Frazier winning it in his hometown. Bryce Harper won it in his hometown. You've got just an incredible because home run you've got an incredible sight to see because home runs is you know is the way the sport is trending. People want to see more home runs hit. Yeah, that's probably one of the more exciting things that can happen on a baseball field outside of the inside of the park. Home run. So the home run derby is wonderful. It is great. It's fantastic. I think it's put a lot of eyes on the sport, a lot of eyes on the all-star festivities. It's wonderful when done correctly. But that's the only thing that baseball really has in terms of the all-star festivities. You've got the All-Star Celebrity Softball Game that I enjoy personally watching. You've got they don't call it the Rising Stars like the NBA does, but they've got kind of a World versus USA rookie baseball game or minor league prospects baseball game that they play, which is fascinating. But I would love to see, just like the NBA, just like the NHL and the NFL as well, a skills competition. Maybe not a bunting competition, but some sort of skills competition. Who can steal the most bags in 10 tries? Catchers throwing down to second base, outfielders throwing home, or even something wacky out of the box. I don't know, but I think that having some more pageantry to it, like the NBA, NFL, NHL, particularly the NBA has it, could be extremely beneficial. And the NBA was extra this year because of the 75-year celebration. We all know how powerful it was in 1999, the All-Star Game at Fenway Park, when Ted Williams came out there. Baseball announced their all-century team. I believe that was the Pedro Martinez year when he electrified Fenway Park with all the strikeouts. That was fantastic. But again, that happened out of that was a product of the timing of it, just as the product of the 75 years allowed the NBA to be a little bit more extra with the all 75 team. Wonderful. And again, that won't happen every year, but I do think that there are ways to make baseball, the extra stuff, more exciting without it being oversaturated or over yada, 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 over blah, 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 things of that nature. But I do think that, like I said, my point being on all of this, before I get into the Cardinal performances, is that for my money, for my opinion, for my thoughts, the game itself, not the pageantries, not the pre-post, not the skills or rookies, none of that. For the game itself, from first pitch to last pitch, or in the other sports, from kickoff to final horn, tip-off to final horn, puck drop to final horn, for the game itself, Major League Baseball has the best all-star game because the game itself is still wildly entertaining because baseball being a muscle memory type sport, like I talked about earlier, you really can't take a game off because then your swing gets messed up for a little while. You just can't. Your mechanics get out of whack. You risk injury if you try something a little different, whatever. So for me, because you have to be, and I'm not saying, again, I'm not trying to say that NFL, NBA, NHL players don't have to be locked in or don't have to try as hard in their All-Star games. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that it's different for baseball, in my opinion, especially from a pitching and hitting standpoint. And it's just harder to dog it in a baseball standpoint. So for my money, for my thoughts, the MLB All-Star game itself, just the game itself, is the best All-Star game. The Cardinals have had their fair share of All-Stars. They have indeed, and we'll be talking about those All-Stars and performances coming up here in just a little bit. But it's that time of year that a lot of people, myself included, have kind of fallen short of their New Year's resolutions. But this year, I've been sticking to one, and that is eating healthy because I eat healthy with Built Bars. That includes puffs that are protein infused marshmallows. That's right. I can have a marshmallow with protein, and therefore I have a delicious marshmallow, but still am eating healthy. All Built Bars, including puffs, are covered 100% in real chocolate. They're low calorie, high protein. Replace your candy bar with Built Bars. You'll get the same great taste, but you'll be that much more healthy. Go to built.com, scroll down to the macros chart. You'll be blown away. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Candy bars are a lot more unhealthy than that. So at Built Bar, they are all about the taste. They make it taste delicious first, then figure out how to make it healthy, and it works. Go to built.com right now. Use promo code LOCKED15, that is LOCKED15, to get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. And with the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's almost impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you're going to need. Why endure often pointless or intimidating questioning while the person behind the counter looks at their computer for the parts that only they have? You have access at home or on the go to rockauto.com, and they have all the parts available for your car or truck. Save time and money when using Rock Auto. It's a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for each and every customer. They have everything you need: brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, even a new carpet. So go explore that easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto part needs. Go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car or truck. Write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. Before we get to the Cardinals All-Star discussion, thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every single day. Your second listen should be Locked On MLB Prospects. Host Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia, and he's going deep inside the MLB stars of tomorrow. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. Meeting between the MLB and MLB Players Association, from what I can tell, my research is still going on, upwards of 3 hours, getting close to 4 at this point. So could see some good news, or could just simply see some progress there. Again, haven't seen anything updated there. So we'll just continue the discussion. Like I said, maybe we'll get a live reaction. That's why I'm kind of pitching that. But we're going to talk about the offense side of things first. And this was a trivia question. I tweeted this out and put it on the Instagram as well. Yadier Molina was the most recent Cardinal to hit a home run in an All-Star game, 2017. At the time, it was a go-ahead home run. It was fun. It was at Miami. Who was the Cardinal to hit a home run in an All-Star game before him? Had one guest reply on Twitter, Sam Ritter, saying Stan Musial in 1955. Stan Musial did hit a home run in the All-Star game in 1955, but he was not the most recent to do it. He even hit one more recently than that in 1960. Hit a home run in an All-Star game. He had plenty of home runs, plenty of opportunities, did Stan the man in an All-Star game. But an interesting note, it was a player that I would not have guessed. He wasn't even going to be close to my top couple guesses. I would have guessed Albert, maybe Roland, maybe Edmonds hit one out. You go back to the 80s, Jack Clark, maybe did he hit one as a Cardinal? Even Ozzie, but no. And it wasn't Carlos Beltran even who made the All-Star team. It was Reggie Smith in 1974. He was 1 for 2 in that game with the home run. Reggie Smith, 1974. That is the answer to the trivia question that was tweeted out. Before him, it was Ken Boyer in 1964, and the Cardinals were pretty regulars in terms of hitting home runs at All-Star games before that, because you had Ken Boyer hit one in 64 and 60. Stan the Man hit one in 60, 56, 55, 51. You had Red Shandy sneak one in there in 1950. Stan the Man again in 49 and 48. Frankie Frisch in 1934, Gas House Gang. Joe Medwick also in 1934, big performance for the Cardinals that year. And then Frankie Frisch hit the first Cardinal home run in an All-Star game in 1933. All of this according to Baseball Reference. And Joe Medwick put on quite the performance in 1934. Had a 3 RBI day, going 1 for 2. Did strike out once for the St. Louis Cardinals in that All-Star game. Joe Medwick also has the most hits in a single game single All-Star game as a Cardinal. He had 4 hits in 1937. He was 4 for 5 with 2 doubles on the day, drove in 1. Most RBIs in an All-Star game as a Cardinal, Joe Medwick in 1934. He had 3 RBI on the day, as I mentioned, with that home run. The most recent player with most RBIs was Albert Pujols. He did have 2 in 2004. He was 2 for 3 in that All-Star game, with 2 doubles. But the Cardinals, 14 home runs as a team in the All-Star game, not something that I really would have expected. And again, when you think of players in the All-Star game for the Cardinals, you would have thought more. You would have thought an Albert, you thought a Roland, thought an Edmonds maybe thrown in there as well. But Albert Pujols as a Cardinal never did hit a home run as a in the All-Star game as a Cardinal. Nolan Arenado, Alex Reyes, and Yadier Molina were the 3 All-Stars for the Cardinals in 2021. Hitless were the Cardinals. Yadier Molina going 0 for 2. Nolan Arenado going 0 for 2. Molina did not get an at-bat or even play in it, and Alex Reyes obviously did not hit. But you go to recent performances outside of the Yadier Molina. Johnny Peralta had a hit in 2015, as well as Carlos Beltran in 2013 had a hit in that All-Star game. Single, no extra base hits. The most recent double for the St. Louis Cardinals in an All-Star game, 2004, Albert Pujols. He had 2 doubles in that game that I mentioned. The most recent triple came a little bit more recent than that. Rafael Furcal. That's right. Rafael Furcal was an All-Star in 2012 as a shortstop. He was 1 for 3 in that All-Star game. Rafael Furcal, I think a lot of people tend to forget about him, but he was a Cardinal in 11 and 12. I feel like I forget that he was an All-Star in 2012. I forget he was even on the team in 2012. Did not play in 13 and then came back for the Marlins for 1 short year after that. Stolen bases is, again, not something that a lot of people typically think of in terms of the Cardinals and All-Star games. But I'm going to pause here, or you can pause the video. Who do you think has the most recent stolen base in an All-Star game for the St. Louis Cardinals? Who do you think? I'm going to just pause for 5 seconds here and let you have an opportunity to guess. Most recent stolen base as a Cardinal in an All-Star game. Okay? All right, time's up. It was Paul DeJong. Had a stolen base in 2019. And before that, that's when you start getting into the obvious ones. Vince Coleman had one in 1988. Ozzie Smith in 1984. Lou Brock in 74, 75. Bill White in 63. Enos Slaughter, 53. Pepper Martin, 1935. But that's it. Not a lot of stolen bases happen in the All-Star game, so I do understand. But that Yadier Molina home run in 2017 is one that I do remember, and I also remember Wade Davis giving up the lead for the National League, for the National League with a home run to, I believe, Robinson Cano, but I just do remember as a Cub that gave up that home run. But Yadier Molina, I think a lot of the reasons that he does find success or tends to find success in All-Star games is just being aggressive and swinging at that first pitch, especially in recent years as well. But offensively, Cardinals have had some pretty good success in the All-Star game department. Again, most hits for them was Joe Medwick, 1937. Most runs scored in an All-Star game, Frankie Frisch in 1934. Most walks was Curt Flood in 1968, just 2. Most strikeouts, Mark McGwire struck out twice in 1999. But again, that was quite the performance for Pedro that year, if I'm remembering correctly. But there have been a lot of performances that I've forgotten about as well from the pitching side, and one from a Cardinal that I would not have expected or forgot about their incredible performance. So we'll talk about Carlos Martinez and his wonderful All-Star performance coming up here in just a moment. But first, football might be over for the season, but basketball is in full steam for both pro and college hoops. If you want the latest odds and totals, player performances, props, and where the next fired coach is going to land, BetOnline.net is the number one spot for all of your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your number one source for hockey, boxing, UFC, odds, and right to the Olympic coverage and information. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and actions. BetOnline, where the game starts. All-Star Cardinal pitching has been pretty successful in years past. Alex Reyes got 2/3 of an inning in this most recent All-Star game in 2021. But if you're looking at strikeouts, a lot of people think of strikeouts as the most dominant performances. 2 Cardinal hurlers in All-Star history have 4 strikeouts in one game. One's pretty easy to guess. You might guess Gibson. Gibson had 3 in 1965. But the other one who had 4, Dizzy Dean in 1934, Gas House Gang. Again, Cardinals really dominated in 1934, as I mentioned before, in this All-Star game. I'm going to give you a same way I gave you Paul Young. Give you a couple of seconds to guess what other Cardinal hurler has 4 strikeouts in an All-Star game. Dizzy Dean did it in 1934. Who else had 4 strikeouts in one All-Star game? It happened in 2017. Same year Yachty went deep. It's Carlos Martinez. I would not have guessed that. Again, I think sometimes people, myself included, forget how dominant Carlos Martinez was at the top of his career. And this is just an example of it. 4 strikeouts in one All-Star game in 2017. That is remarkable. Mentioned Gibson had 3 in 1965. Dizzy Dean also had 3 in 1936. Adam Wainwright had 2 strikeouts and 1 inning of work in 2014. Although that wasn't very solid performance. It was a Derek Jeter year in Minnesota. Gave up 3 earned runs in that first inning. One home run as well in that inning. Number of Cardinal hurlers have had 2 strikeouts in an All-Star game. Kent Bottenfield in 1999, Gibson in 70, Steve Carlson in 1969, Gibson in 69 and 67, Harvey Haddix in 1955, Harry Brechin in 1947, Mort Cooper in 1942, Dizzy Dean in 1937, Bill Walker in 1935, and then I'm not going to bore you with who had 1 strikeouts, but it is a fair amount. In terms of most innings pitched in a single All-Star game, the highest is 3 innings pitched. Dean did it in 34, 36, Carlton in 69, Harvey Haddix in 1955, Harry Brechin in 1947, Dizzy Dean 1937 as well, reached 3 innings. The most in this century is Carlos Martinez in 2017. The only other one to go multiple innings in this century, Darryl Kyle. The late Darryl Kyle did it in 2000. Everybody else just went 1 inning or less. Wainwright with an inning in 2014 as well as 2010. That one in 2010 went a little bit better for him as he went an inning, gave up a hit, but also picked up a couple of strikeouts. But going back to that Carlos Martinez, just 4 strikeout performance. Again, one that I think is forgotten. If the NL would have won that game, I think you had 2 Cardinals that could have been the MVP. You had Yadier Molina with the go-ahead home run, and you had the Carlos Martinez with 4 strikeouts. Because I think anytime you get more than 2 strikeouts I think I said World Series. I meant to say All-Star game, obviously. But when you get to an All-Star game, anything more than 2 strikeouts is pretty impressive and worth noting. I know DeGrom did it pretty immaculately one of these years recently as well. But again, these are just some of the performances that really stuck out from a Cardinals perspective. A couple of them that don't stick out so well or stick out in a bad way. Adam Wainwright, like I mentioned, had a bad day. 4 earned runs were given up by Mort Cooper in 1943. Bob Tewksbury, 1992, gave up 4 earned runs in just an inning and 2/3 of work. So you had the good with the bad there. But I always look forward to the MLB All-Star Game. I'll kind of finish where I started in saying that, again, in my opinion, it is the best All-Star Game in North America. And the 4 major, I shouldn't even say that, and the 4 major North American sports, NBA, NHL, NFL, NBA, MLB. Those 4. I think I said NBA twice, but you know what 4 I'm talking about. MLB has the best All-Star Game. Might not have the best pageantry. It might not have the best overall weekend experience or overall time experience for the whole time, but it has the best game itself. The best game because it's the most entertaining because baseball, you really can't take any games off for your muscle memory, things of that nature. Again, all 4 sports are incredibly difficult. There's reason people get paid millions of dollars to do them, but baseball for me takes the cake as the best All-Star game. So hopefully tomorrow we'll have more thoughts on the MLB lockout as meeting is still going on at the time of this recording on Monday afternoon. But also tomorrow, because it is 2/22/22, taking a look at famous number 2s in Cardinal history. And there is one that stands out that we'll be spending most of, if not all, of our time talking about. And that would be the Cardinal great of Mr. Red Shandies. So we'll be spending our time talking about Cardinal number 2s on Locked On Cardinals tomorrow. Remember, 5 episodes a week this week, whether the lockout is going on or not. I promised you 5 because I was bad last week, so we're going 5 episodes this week. So I'll talk to you guys tomorrow about Cardinal number 2s. Be sure to stay safe, stay well, and have a fantastic rest of your day.